Welcome to Entrepreneurs International Network, where entrepreneurs learn, network, and grow. I'm Roger Killen, the organizer. Today, Ursula Mentjes is training us on how to double our sales and work less. Ursula, I've got 3 questions for you that are designed to help us get to know you as a person, as opposed to the professional you are. Question number 1. What's one of your favorite quotes?
You must do the thing you think you cannot do by Eleanor Roosevelt.
You must do the thing you cannot do.
You think you cannot do.
You must do the thing you think you cannot do. That's profound. Thank you for sharing. Question number 2. Now, we've all made mistakes in life, but some of us have delicious mistakes and some of us have favorite mistakes. What is your favorite mistake?
My favorite mistake is not hiring a coach sooner in my business, because now I'm a coach and I can look back and think, wow, if I would have done that, I would have moved a lot faster. So it enhances my knowing that I'm on the right path in this world of coaching.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. And the third and final question, what is the most important business lesson you have ever learned?
To practice the law of detachment, meaning you want to have a really big goal, but you have to be detached to it at some level. You have to kind of loosen up your hands to it and have faith and trust that the steps will continue to unfold in front of you.
Okay, that needs a little bit of thought. Thank you for sharing. Participants, it would be really nice if you could turn on your video. From Ursula's point of view, it's not much fun looking at a bunch of black rectangles. So if you could fill those rectangles with your warm and friendly personality and lovely smiles, I will thank you on behalf of Ursula. Now, I ask you that you stay muted, but when you do have a question, please pop it into the chat, and I will batch the questions and then pose them all at once to Ursula at several times during her talk. Just rest assured that any question you have will get answered. You're going to be sent a link to the recording of Ursula's workshop in a few hours, ideally 3 hours from now. But I nevertheless encourage you to take notes, because the very act of taking notes is going to help you absorb more content, perhaps by as much as 30%. All right, Ursula, are you ready to wow us with your wisdom?
Then I am ready, Roger.
Take it away. The show is all yours.
All right, beautiful. Well,
Ursula, I'm sorry. I've just asked you accidentally to mute. You're good now.
Thank you. All right, good evening, good afternoon, good day, wherever you are in the world. I'm really excited to be here today, this afternoon, to talk about the importance of doubling your sales while working less. Again, my name is Ursula Mentjes, and I want to thank Roger Killen and all of you at Entrepreneurs International Network for inviting me to be here and to spend this hour with you. I have my timer on. So we're going to get this to make sure we get it all in as much as possible. And again, welcome. I did put a worksheet in the chat, so you can click on that and print it out so you have it. I absolutely agree with Roger. It's so beneficial when you take notes, because you retain 30% more than you would have if you didn't. So you can certainly print the worksheet out. You can print it later. You have it. It also has my contact information on there if you need to reach out, or if there's anything I can do for you. So tonight where I am in Minneapolis, I'll probably keep saying that, we are going to really take a deep dive into where you are in your business now and where you want it to go. We're coming up on 2022. Can you believe that? I was just thinking about that. I was chatting with Happy Thanksgiving to our friends in Canada, and I was talking to some of my clients in Canada, and they were just talking about just how we're in the holiday season. It has begun. Here we are, and I remember at the beginning of 2020, as we kind of eased into that year and the pandemic started, and just how fear-filled we were. How much uncertainty was brought into that moment. And I remember thinking that at the beginning of 2020, it was going to be our best year in business ever. And by the time March rolled around, I had a lot of question marks as I was wondering if we were even going to be in business. And so I congratulate all of you for being here in this now moment, because you made it. Not only did you make it, hopefully you're thriving or getting ready to thrive. 2020 ended up being our best year in business ever. We pretty much dismantled the entire business down to nothing, rebuilt it on this beautiful Zoom platform. Thank you, Zoom. And have continued to grow from there. This is going to be our best year in business again in 2021, and we're looking at the same in 2022. And I think back to the moment when I can smile about it now, right? When we think back, when I sat down with my husband and I said, you know, this might be it for business. This was March of 2022 or 2020. I thought this might be it. And my husband laughed at me and he said, you know, what's that stuff that you do with your beliefs and shifting them and quantum speed and all those things you talk about? He's like, maybe it's time to practice a little bit of that. So shout out to all the people who reflect back to us what we know to be true in our hearts. And so we did. Was it easy? No. You know, we look at, you know, when I say we, myself, my team at Ursula Inc., we look at our clients that we've supported through some really difficult times. I would say now today, though, most of our clients are having their best year ever in business. And so I want to invite you to think about what your best year ever could look like in business. If you could choose any number in 2022 in terms of your annual revenue, what would that number be? Before we dive in, I invite you to write it down, either on the worksheet or on a notepad in front of you. What's your stretch goal, so to speak, for 2022? So I'm going to ask you to write it down, because everything we're going to do after this tonight is going to hinge on what you've just written and what you're creating for yourself. Tonight, I'm going to take you through 5 strategies that we work with our VIP clients on in terms of helping them take that quantum leap. We've helped clients double, triple, quadruple their sales, some in as little as 30 days. And we're going to move through these 5 strategies in different ways. And what I want you to do is really think through, like, how does this apply to me in my business today? What can I take from this strategy? I guarantee you there's going to be things that I share that you've heard before. You're going to say, oh, I've heard that, or, you know, yeah, I should be doing that. What I want you to listen for is, you know, what could you be doing with that, or what needs to shift? Or even if you feel like I know that, the question I would ask myself is, I know it, but am I getting results from it yet? And if you're not, I would look at, like, what could I change there? So we're going to talk about everything from creating what I call an upgraded revenue container, which is really fun to talk about. We're going to talk about limiting beliefs, what it really takes to scale your business, how to develop consistent lead generation. This is what we hear from our clients all the time, is they need more leads. And then finally, we'll talk about how to close the sale. Okay. All right.
Ursula, do you have time for a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, Ursula. Do you know anyone who can sell from the stage? I am talking about a virtual stage. I'm in the dating niche and have a great product that is very needed, not a dating app or coaching or a matchmaker. I'm willing to split any sales 50-50. So Daryl wants to know if you can refer him to anyone who can help him sell from the stage.
So in terms of, so for Daryl, for you to sell from, someone to teach you how to sell from the stage, or someone to sell from the stage for you?
Daryl, maybe you'd like to unmute and elaborate a little bit.
Sure, thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, that will do the selling. I think women can do this better than for my audience, which is 40 and above. And I would rather do other things. So I put all the work into creating the course.
Okay, Daryl, that's all we need to know. Okay, back to you, Ursula.
Yeah, that's a great question, Daryl. And I get a lot of people asking, how do I hire a salesperson? Where do I find great salespeople? And it's like any other job you would hire for, right? You want to create a really specific job post and get it out there everywhere. I just had the same conversation, not about selling this in particular, but about salespeople. And there is an art. This might be a longer offline conversation. And at the end, I'll tell you some ways that we could get connected. But it's really like, it's like posting every other job that you might want to post, but getting very specific about the skill set you're looking for. And I'll tell you, your top salespeople, and this is something a lot of people ask me, your top salespeople do want typically a base plus commission or a really high commission. So might be a longer conversation at a different time, and I certainly invite that conversation. Great question.
Okay,
All right.
thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to have Brian Tracy introduce me tonight. Some of you know him. To me, he's one of the top trainers, I think, in the sales industry. He moved into motivation and goals. He's written over 80 books. He's still out there writing books. And I had the pleasure of having him as a mentor. He's been a mentor to me. I've been through a lot of his training. And he's also the reason I got my first traditional book publisher, because Brian was kind enough to hand me his book proposal and say, model this. Like, who does that? So anyway, shout out to Brian. He's just going to give you a short intro of my background.
Hello, my name is Brian Tracy, and I'm delighted to introduce you to my friend Ursula Mentjes, an award-winning entrepreneur, author, speaker, and sales expert. At just 22 years old, Ursula launched her sales career as an outside sales professional. Within a year, Ursula was promoted to branch management, where she grew a $1 million branch in 12 months. Within 5 years, Ursula was promoted to president of that company when the revenues was in the tens of millions of dollars. In addition, Ursula holds a BA in psychology and communications, a master's degree in counseling psychology, and an NLP certified coach through the NLP Institute of California. She's the author of 3 award-winning books, Selling with Intention, One Great Goal, and Selling with Synchronicity. She was named the Polka Dot Powerhouse's Extraordinary Speaker and is the recipient of the SBA's Women in Business Champion Award. Since launching her own business, Sales Coach Now, Ursula has helped hundreds of sales professionals and entrepreneurs double their sales quickly by teaching them the sales skills and mindset they need to make selling easier. Plus, Ursula is a captivating speaker and always leaves her audiences begging for more. Now, here's Ursula.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Brian Tracy. And on that note, here's my question for you. And I asked this earlier, and I really want you to lean into it. What is your number for 2022? Is it 6 figures, 7 figures, multi-6, multi-7 figures? Is it 8 figures? This last year, we've had clients that we've helped go from 50,000 to their first 250 annually. We have another client who was at 10 million and will be at 16 million by the end of this year. Would have been even higher, would have hit her 20 million had she not had some very big distractions and challenges inside of her business, which shut it down for a while with COVID and other things. So I can tell you, we've worked with businesses at many, many different levels. And the whole question to ask yourself first, though, is what's the number? Where do I want to be? Without that level of clarity, without knowing where you want to go, the next steps will never show up. And this is something that you will hear me shout from the mountaintops. You have to make a decision. You have to get all in on that number and then keep going. And that, I think, as an entrepreneur can be one of the most difficult things to do. As Roger mentioned, you're 30% more likely to remember what you've written down, to retain the information when you write it down. This is a really important statistic as well. You're 99% more likely to achieve your goals simply by writing them down. So we're moving from retention to goal setting. 99% more likely. So this statistic was discovered when I was doing research for my last book, The Belief Zone. And I was really looking at all the things that I'd done over the years and like, what really worked? And as simple as it sounds, writing down your goals makes a huge difference, and getting really clear on your numbers makes a massive difference. A lot of our clients will tell us, they don't like the numbers. They don't love doing the math around it. They don't love figuring it out. And yet when they start to fall in love with the numbers and really start to fall in love with revenue modeling, which we'll talk about tonight, and getting clear on your revenue container, everything will start to shift in your business. So I invite you to write your goals down tonight. Write those numbers down. You might be surprised when you come back next year and you look down, you're like, I did it. It happened. Speaking of beliefs and writing your numbers down, in my world, we call them one great goals. So I wrote the book, my second book, One Great Goal, back in 2008. And that book was all about having one really big goal. In our world, that really big goal is our revenue goal. So you'll hear my clients talk a lot about, my one great goal is this. This is Jessica Martin. She came to one of our events, kind of like this, like didn't know a lot about me, came to an event and started to shift her beliefs about what was possible for her and her husband. Her husband is a dentist and they own a dental office together. She is the CEO of that dental office. So I want to share a little bit of her journey. This is a quick clip. I interviewed her on my podcast, which is now called Quantum Revenue Expansion on iTunes. And at the very end, she said, Ursula, there's something else I wanted to share about beliefs and I forgot to share it. May I share it? Yes. So here you go.
Ursula, I did want to mention to your listeners that it is so powerful to identify that one great goal. I was in a conference with you years ago, and I remember writing down a certain goal for our practice that at the time seemed really, really like a stretch. And I brought it home to my husband, who's more the numbers guy. And I said, this is the goal. This is what we need to hit for all these other things to happen and fall in place. And he kind of laughed at me and said, Jess, that's like, that would be really stretching. I don't know how we'd get there. And we kind of left it there. And then we both attended another event of yours. I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was like a day retreat or something. And so he got to kind of sit and listen to you talk and be inspired. And we left there and he's like, yeah, no, let's go. Like, I think we can get there. And we figured it out. And we hit that goal without as much effort as you would have imagined, because it seemed like such a stretch, but just having that thing to pinpoint was really powerful. And now we can look back and kind of laugh that we thought that was going to be hard to get to, or that would be like this huge mountain to climb, because we hit it and now we're way above it. But I think it's important for people to really hone in on that. And I know that's like the whole premise of your book and the things that you're doing for live events and stuff. But I really do think it's important, because once you put it out into the universe, it does just happen easier for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And for you guys, that was a 7-figure goal, wasn't it?
Yes. Ursula,
I love sharing that story, because you can picture Jessica coming to the event and then inviting her husband, and the two of them getting really clear on this goal. And it's become a multi-million-dollar goal now. Jessica's gone on to start a consulting practice and expand her business even more. What she talked about, though, and we're going to get into this tonight as well, is the importance of belief. It's one thing to have the one great goal, and what do you believe about it? And tonight, I want to help you shift one of your limiting beliefs. I'm going to take you through a signature process that's part NLP, part Ursula's 20 years of doing this work that helps our clients make these shifts really quickly. So we will do that before the night is out. And at the very end, I have a little something for all of you, a couple free gifts that I'll be extending. So you want to stay on until the end and hang out with us.
Time for a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the best strategy to get the first sales when you just get started? Wants to know Carmen.
Yeah, I want to know what Carmen does. What is her business? It'll just help me get a little more context.
Carmen, if you'd like to unmute.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm a wealth coach for
Awesome.
women specifically.
I'm sorry, what kind of wealth?
Just help them improve their finances and create wealth for
Yeah.
women.
Excellent. Okay. So we're going to talk about marketing tonight. I mean, the first thing, though, that I want you to do, Carmen, is get really clear on, and this is probably what you talk about too, on the revenue goal. What's your monthly revenue goal in your business? And what's your formula, which we'll also talk about. So I'm going to invite you. So Roger, you're going to help me with this. I want to come back to Carmen after the training tonight, and I want to see, Carmen, what has kind of downloaded for you. And then I'll do some more coaching around it. Because I think if I try to answer it before we go through the training, I'm just going to spin you around in a circle. Does that sound fair?
Sure. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. So take lots of notes, and Roger, help me make sure. Carmen, we're going to come back to you. So make sure you raise your hand at the end, and we'll give it more context at that point. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Great question. Great question. All right. So my quick story, a lot of people ask me, how did you get into this? And, how did you get into the sales world? And not a lot of women in that space, especially not when I first got started. I wrote a book called Selling with Intention. A lot of people, were like, what does that mean? And now everyone gets intention, right? back in the day, well, this is right. So quick intro. This is my husband, Tim, our son, Luca. And this was at my book signing, The Belief Zone. Lots of fun. Love to have my son inside of the business and just inspiring him to believe that anything's possible. I did not believe everything or anything was possible. I grew up on a farm in southern Minnesota, which was amazing in many ways because I love the animals. I loved running free. We had organic food, but we didn't call it organic. We just called it food, right? We had a garden. So, and it was amazing. And we were very rich in a lot of ways. When it came to money, though, I had a lot of limiting beliefs about money from a young age, that there wasn't enough, you didn't need it, rich people were greedy, just all kinds of things that I had to work on. And that's one of the reasons I ended up on this path. I am also an accidental salesperson. I majored in psychology and communication, which you can do absolutely nothing with when you graduate, right? My parents said, go to college and get a good job. I did. I graduated and I was working at Pier 1 Imports, making $6.25 an hour. Now, here's the amazing thing, though. When you dream big, opportunities always show up. And I knew I was being called to something else. I just didn't know what it was. And my friend Jana came to me one day. She worked at Pier 1 Imports as well. And she said, Urs, that's what she called me. Urs, I have an opportunity for us. And I said, oh, do tell. And she said her aunt and uncle had just sold their company and they lived in Boulder, Colorado. They'd sold the company for multi-millions and there was an opportunity to go and live with them. And she said, would you like to move across the country to Colorado, like 2 states over? And I said, yes, absolutely. So we did. And Jana's uncle, Will, became this mentor to me. And we only had, we had a handful of really kind of deep conversations, but I'll never forget one of the conversations, right? Because there's those people who show up in your life who show you a fork in the road and you have an opportunity to take that road. And Jana's uncle, Will, one day said to me, he said, Ursula, what are your plans? Which was also code for you can't live here forever, right? You and Jana need to figure out what you're going to do with your lives. And I said, well, I want to go to law school. And he's like, we'd be happy to help with that. Like, what can we do? And, I just thought, wow, such a generous person. And it started to shift my beliefs about what it meant to have money and to be successful. And I said, well, I could never accept any gifts. I'm just going to figure this out. I'll figure out how to earn the money. And he said, may I give you some advice? I'll never forget this. I said, yes, please, Will. He said, Ursula, get a job in outside sales and you can do anything. Huh? What? Like, what does that even mean? What is outside sales? I didn't even know what he was talking about. I'm like, do I sell outside? I grew up on a farm. I can sell to farmers. Is that outside? He's like, no. Sell business to business. He goes, listen, get your resume updated. I'll send it to some people I know. We'll get you a job in outside sales. You'll learn how to sell. Maybe you could have your own business someday. Here's this, right? This entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur had sold his company and was offering me this advice. So of course I was listening. I went home, I updated my resume. And this is where it gets so interesting and where it's one of the reasons I wrote the book, One Great Goal. Because the second I got that resume updated, before I could send it to Will, I was working at Pier 1 Imports one day, and I was talking to this woman who was wearing a nice business suit, and she was buying rugs. I will never forget the rugs. They were beautiful rugs that I could not afford at the time. And she asked me, she said, what are you doing here in Boulder? And I said, well, because then once you know what you want, you got to commit to it. You got to say it out loud. And so I said, I'm looking for a job in outside sales. I just said it. I really didn't even know what it meant. And she said, well, we're hiring. Do you want to interview? And in that moment, I could have disqualified myself, right? I could have said, I don't have any sales experience. I'm a farm kid. Like, I have a background in psychology and communication and retail sales. But in that moment, something stopped me. I didn't disqualify myself. I said, and after I said it, I was like, oh, I said that. I said, I would love to interview. What do you sell? And if there was anything on the planet that I couldn't sell, this was it. She said, we sell computer training and consulting. Remember, psych major. But I didn't disqualify myself. And when I look back at my life, I think, and I look at this picture of me as like, whatever I was, 8-year-old, 9-year-old. There was something in that girl and that kid that she didn't disqualify herself. I didn't have a perfect childhood, a very interesting childhood. There were a lot of reasons I could have disqualified myself or believed that I wasn't good enough. But call it spirit, call it something inside me. I said, you know what? I'm meant for that too. So I didn't disqualify myself. I said, okay, they hired me. And the long and short of it is I went from being an outside sales rep, selling computer training and consulting, to being president of a $20 million company by the time I was 27. In 5 years, I went from outside sales, like starting at the quote unquote bottom, to running the company. And I just didn't disqualify myself. I just kept saying, why not me? And I share this story with you because I share it with all my clients and my friends and my colleagues. And I say to you, why not you? Like, isn't it your turn? Isn't it your time? And if you didn't disqualify yourself, even as we're chatting tonight and we're connecting, if you didn't disqualify yourself to what you're being called to do, because you know the calling, you feel it, like, where would you be a year from now? So I invite you to be qualified. And I invite you to have a breakthrough. Because here's the thing, breakthroughs don't happen over time. They happen in an instant. They happen because something touches your heart, something gets you right here, or even someone validates what you've been thinking, or maybe even someone gives you permission to live the dream that you want to live, and you stop disqualifying yourself. So with that in mind, no disqualifying, let's start with strategy number 1. And again, this is on your worksheet. This is where we begin with every client who comes across our path. Whether you have a 5-figure business or an 8-figure business, we help you create what I call an upgraded revenue container. Because I just think that sounds good. I want an upgraded revenue container. And the reason we call it that, the reason I call it that, is because I want you to think that, think of your business as an entity that contains the revenue, the experiences, the impact of your customers, your clients, right? It's a container. And you can expand a container. But what we see, and I say we, myself, my coaches, my team, what we see often is that we have clients who come across our path who've had big dreams for a long time. In the back of their head, they want a 7-figure business. We hear that a lot. I want a 7-figure business. But their container is like this big. Even if they wanted a 7-figure business, it would not fit in the container. And that's one of the reasons why they don't get there, right? If you want a 7-figure business, you have to have a 7-figure container. And you have to be ready to lead that 7-figure container. Hopefully that's resonating. Now, it's one thing to dream it, right? I can go super, philosophical, metaphysical, quantum physics. I can play in all that space. And I can also play in the world of strategy because I built 7-figure, 8-figure, multi-million-dollar revenue models. And it's one of the things I'm really good at. And I geek out on it because here's what we know. When our clients get really clear on their what we call their model month template, like exactly. So if you want a 7-figure business, you would have to have 12 $83,333 months, right? So what's contained in that $83,333 month? You've got to drill it down. And in a projection, you can do that. I'm sure many of you have seen these, many of you fill them out. What I find is that people kind of half fill them out or fill them out once and then forget about them. And we want these to be living documents for you. I'll give you an example. One of our clients was at our CEO table a couple of weeks ago. And she's like, Ursula, I hit my 2X. I did it. I hit my 2X. And for her, she was going from $10,000 a month to $20,000 a month. And she did it. And she was super excited. But she's like, I've plateaued. I can't seem to bust through the next income ceiling. And I kind of just felt into it for a second. I run kind of intuitive. And I said, have you updated your projection worksheet? She said, no. And so when we went and looked at it, this is very interesting. Her projection was flat across the year. So it was like, once she hit 20,000, it was 20,000, 20,000, 20,000, 20,000. There was no place for it to go. Now that might sound crazy. And I would think it's crazy if I didn't see this over and over and over again. Another client, I'll come back to that. Another client, this is an example, this is an internet online business, sells a product. And she grew her sales from $1,100 a month to over $300,000 a month. When we first met her, it was $1,100 a month. Her first step, she wanted a 7-figure business. And I asked her though, I said, what can you see? Like, what can you really see in your business? And she said, I can see $500,000. Can't see beyond that. So the first projection we created for her was $500,000 over the next year. After that first year, she started to hit the numbers on the projection. She kept expanding it and expanding it. And I remember looking at one of her projections, and she, it was probably like year 4, maybe. September, October, November, December are pretty big sales months for her. And November, she was kind of going, I think it was like October was $500,000. November was 700,000. And I remember she called me up and she said, and this is my favorite thing when clients say, Ursula, you're never going to believe this. Like, try me. She said, I hit the exact number that I had projected in November. And she said, it's the biggest month we've ever had. It was like 700,000 something. She was, I never even thought it was really possible. She's like, and she said, I'm not even sure how we hit it. But when I look back at my projection, it was that exact number. She said, how do you explain that? I can't. What I know though, is when you create upgraded revenue containers, when you get really clear in your projections and your numbers, the way to get there starts to show up. Now, it requires you to do some work. It requires you to shift limiting beliefs about yourself, about your business, about your clients, about pretty much everything. It requires you to work more on this, like on yourself and your brain and your heart and what's possible for you than probably anything else. And that's a lot of the work we do with our clients. In fact, our clients come into our programs and they say things like, this, like, all we talk about is my mindset and what I'm shifting. And I'm like, yeah, because you did the hard work. You have your projections model. You have your products. You've upgraded your prices. You've changed your packages. Like, you've done all the foundational pieces. And now you're following the next step, and it keeps happening. So to do this for yourself, like, it's just a quick breakdown. And I recommend that everyone does this just to get it, like, this is just to get a quick snapshot. And then you would take this down to a deeper level. Let's say you want to do 7 figures. And I made this easy math. So let's say it's 1.2 million a year. It's $100,000 per month. If your average sale is $10,000, how many sales do you need per month? I'm going to help you out. 10, right? If your closing ratio is 50%, meaning half the people you meet with become your client, how many qualified, meaning, that they could become your client, how many qualified prospects do you need? You need 20. Okay. Simple math. Now, the reason we do this though is because when you start to break it down, your brain and your subconscious mind goes to work on this right away. Your brain starts to look for the opportunities. Like, if I know I need 10 clients at $1,000 each, and this is kind of to you, Carmen, like, that's going to start to drive your marketing, right? If I need 10 clients and my closing ratio is 50%, I'm just, a lot of times we say 50% because we're not sure. We'll say we're going to, half the people we meet with become our client. It's a good guess. Then the question becomes, where do my qualified leads come from? And how can I drive my marketing? But without knowing this formula, like this specific formula for your business, it's really hard to know how to drive your marketing. Or to even, I see so many of our clients hiring marketing companies, and marketing companies like spending lots of their money throwing spaghetti at the wall, but it's not targeted. And we'll talk about marketing tonight and some simple strategies that we use and that our clients use to just simplify the whole marketing process. Let's say you want to do 100, your first 6 figures. And by the way, I think the first 6 figures in any business is often the most challenging 6 figures you'll ever make. 120,000 a year is 10,000 a month. Again, we're going to use simple math for me tonight. Average sales $1,000. How many sales do you need per month? 10. Same math. You close 50%. How many qualified appointments do you need? 20. Now, it's interesting, for some of our clients, when they if you think about these numbers and you're thinking about them for yourself, isn't this interesting? And this is one of the things I like to contrast. You need the same amount of sales to hit 1.2 million in this example, or 120,000 in this example. And often we find that our clients are severely underpriced in terms of how much they charge. So I'll just let that cook for a little bit for you, because that's one way to take a quantum leap in your business, is to really get aligned with how much you should charge. All right, so we talked about the client. All right, here we go. So just moving all my slides around. There we go. we talked about this as well, like 6 or 7 figures. What is your number? You've written it down. As we move into strategy number 2, which is
Ursula, before you go to strategy number 2, would you take a couple of questions?
I would love to.
Okay, Jason from Tennessee asks, I have a service wellness business. How do I make more money? He works one-on-one. How would I make more money if he's the only provider? Would online training, online group training and nutrition courses be better?
That's a great question. I mean, there's not a lot of ways. If you're committed to being the only one in your business, right? You can either raise your prices or start to go one to many, which is what you're talking about, or hire someone else to help deliver. So not lots of ways to increase. I would definitely think about how to start to go toward the one to many and start to have group classes. I was just talking with another client this morning about that. She's got a health and wellness business. It's on the ground in her city, and she's building her internet part of the business now to really explode and expand. So I would think about like, if you could choose any way to grow the business, what would be the most ideal way and the most enjoyable way for you to grow it? That's what I would look at.
Thank you.
And probably raise your prices, I'm feeling so.
So, and the second question is about raising your prices to what you call the right level. This is my question. How do you know what is the optimum price point to be charging?
Yeah, that's a great question. So years ago, one of my coaches gave me the best answer, and it had served me so well. So I'll share that with you. And I'm glad you asked. So let's say that, Roger, do you have a real world example we can use? We don't have to use the exact numbers, but name a product or service that you sell.
Okay, I support people with TED-worthy ideas to become the Simon Sinek of their space.
And this is like a year-long journey with you, right? Okay. So I would look at a couple of things, right? I would look at, how long have you been at your current price point? I would just, just to be curious about it, just look, think about that. And ask yourself, and this is for everyone, ask yourself this question. In an ideal world, what is the least amount I would charge? Which is probably where you're at right now. Like this is probably the least you would charge for what you're doing in this moment. And then ask yourself, what's the most I would charge where I would show up like the rock star I am, delivering at the highest level with more enthusiasm than you could ever imagine. And I would write that number down. So then we have a range. We have the least amount and the highest amount. And typically what we find is there's a number in between that's most aligned with you. Because here's the tricky part. If you go out and look at what the market bears, well, I could find somebody charging $50 an hour for coaching, and I can find someone that's charging 7 figures for email coaching, right? Like the range. So is that the market? What really matters is what's in alignment with me. And so that least and most exercise, you can really find that number that's in the middle that's most in alignment. So it should feel like a stretch for you, but believable at some level.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, here we go. Strategy number 2. Move all of our, hold on, there we go. Release your number 1 limiting belief about scaling your business. I thought that's what it said. I wanted to make sure it matched my words. Okay. Oopsie. Sorry, I hit 5 buttons. Okay. So when you think about scaling your business or growing it or 2xing or even 10xing your sales, okay? What is the number 1 limiting belief that comes up for you? So you can even look down at the number you've written down for 2022. And underneath it, I invite you to write, what's your number 1 limiting belief about why you can't have that? And if you want to play along, I invite you to write it down because we'll do a quick belief change. So just take a moment. What's that number 1 limiting belief you have about scaling your business and taking it to that next level next year? A second. Beautiful. And here's the next part of this. This is kind of my hack for changing beliefs, because you could spend hours, like we could dive into your subconscious mind. We could swim around. There's a lot of cool things that are out there that you could do. And I like the simple, practical ways to just knock one out. Like, how do you knock out how do you just knock that limiting belief out so it's gone? Okay. So let's set the intention that we're going to release it. So the next step is to look down at the limiting belief you've written and to ask yourself, and this is kind of trippy, like you got to like really think about this. What are 3 things that are potentially not true about your limiting belief? 3 things that are potentially not true about it. And if anyone wants to, so I'm gonna let you write, and then if someone wants to play along, we can certainly do this too, Roger. I'll do a live belief change. Yeah, so go ahead and just write down 3 things that are potentially not true.
Nicole is volunteering to play along.
All right. Okay, Nicole, see if I can find you. And Nicole, go ahead and take yourself off mute.
Okay.
Okay, hello, Nicole, where are you from?
I am from Portland, Oregon.
Portland, awesome. All right. So tell us, like, are you looking to do a 2X or a 10X in 2022? And what kind of business do you have?
2X or 10X? I feel like you're trying to make me a bigger plus size. So I don't know what you mean by a 2X or a 10X. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's funny. I never thought about it that way. So, all right. Do you want to double your sales or your revenue in 2022, or do you want to make it times 10?
Well, I'm just starting. So I'm actually just in the state of I'm wanting more of the being, because I know if I'm going into being, it will just come. So does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So what would be the ideal revenue level for you in 2022?
The ideal revenue
in other words, is it your first 6 figures? Like, if you could choose a number, what would it be?
Probably my first 6 figures.
Okay. So let's say 100,000. Perfect. All right. So what did you write down in terms of what's potentially not true about being able to scale your business or grow it to that next level?
So mine is not having enough resources or time would be more my thing than anything.
And remind me again, what did you say you sell?
Right now, I'm working on, I'm developing called the needs language. It's a new modality that I've developed. It's kind of a consulting coaching business. And
okay.
That's what I'm working on. It's a language model.
Okay. Got it. Okay, got it. So what's potentially not true about you not having enough resources or time to reach that goal?
Well, I am pretty resourceful. I mean, I can find resources like most people can't.
I'm going to have you talk a little bit louder or get a little closer to your mic. Nicole, I'm having a hard time hearing you. So you were saying...
Oh, I'm so sorry. You know what? That's really strange, because I sing symphonic metal and I could sing over choirs. So it's probably because my phone.
That's okay. I heard you say, okay, so you said what's not true is you're actually pretty resourceful. You can figure things out. What else is not true about you not having enough resources or time?
I am not currently working right now, so I usually can make time. It's just that there's a lot of projects, so sometimes I don't feel like I have enough time to do, and it's just me. So it's learning to flow with that,
okay,
and letting things happen as they do, because sometimes it just feels like there's a lot of setbacks, and there's a lot to do.
So there's a lot to do, but what I think I'm hearing you say is that you do actually have time. It's more about prioritizing.
Or no, it's a lot that there's a lot to do. It's about, because I do prioritize really well. It's just that there is a lot to do.
Yeah. Okay. But you're saying you could make time for it. It's more about like just focusing and finishing those pieces. What's one more thing that's potentially not true?
I think it's that, that resources are just popping out. Like know tomorrow. I'm having people actually, like today someone just said, hey, you know what? What's your website? I would like to put you on, are you open to me putting you on my blog?
Cool.
I know you're having problems with your website, and I had a resource actually say, I know I'm not able to help you today. Can we set up another time to help you with your website?
Okay.
So resources are, it's like I've been planting seeds with other people, and so like resources are starting to happen for me.
Okay, got it. So resources are showing up. All right, so I'm going to summarize this really quickly. So we went from there's not enough resources and time to I can prioritize, I'm really resourceful, and resources are showing up right now. So what happens is your subconscious starts to let go of this limiting belief. You start to make room. So here's the next step. Nicole, if you could believe anything about your business and growing it, this is for everyone. If you could believe anything about it, what would you rather believe? And here's where you get to choose a new belief in the present tense. Now, here's another hint for you. Two of the most powerful words in the English language are I am, okay? Because anything you say after that, your subconscious mind believes. That's why we don't want to say negative things to ourselves, right? So even though we do, that's a whole other course. But so Nicole, if you're going to start the sentence with I am, what would you rather believe about growing your business to 6 figures next year? Kind of the opposite of what your limiting belief was.
You know, you said I am, but it's like I have planted enough seeds that I am now reaping the benefits of what I have planted, so that the resources are coming to me, and that I am so good at prioritizing that things will flow within the time frame that they're supposed to.
Beautiful. All right. Good thing this is recorded. That was a long sentence and a really good one. You might want to go back and listen to that. If I kind of shortened it a bit, it could be as simple as I am really resourceful and on my way to reaching 7 figures and beyond. And yours was excellent. So you can add all those pieces in. What you want to tie together is, you know, I am, whatever you are, the opposite of that. So I am resourceful and opportunities are flowing to me, and then tie in your revenue goal at the end. This is for everyone. And I easily reach X amount in 2022 or more. We always like to say or more, so we don't cap it. So Nicole, well done. Thanks for playing along at home. And hopefully this helped everyone else go through this process. Here's what's great about this. You can do this over and over and over again. This is what I do in my head all day long, because we have negative bias, right? We tend toward the negative. Some people say 98% of our thoughts lean toward the negative, and they're mostly about ourselves, our businesses, like what we can create. And so when you start to catch those beliefs in the moment, you can shift them. When you sense a negative belief, you can just say, what's not true about that? What would I rather believe? Just start challenging yourself, because that will help you stay on this track of creating the business you desire and not stop. Because strategy number 3 ties perfectly into this. It's all about making a decision, which I said on the front end. You have to decide to double and scale. When you make a decision, the root of the word decide means to close the door. A coaching friend of mine said that years ago, and it just stuck in my head. When you make a decision, you're all in. You burn the backup plan. There is no going back. We're not going back to a job, right? We're not going back to, the business we didn't want. We're all in. And that can be the hardest path. Don't get me wrong. I've been on this journey for 17 years. I have what I call a quitting coach. On the days that I want to quit, which have been many, like 2008, the Great Recession, I think I called her every day. And I joke with her, her name's Amanda. She's also my book editor, my book coach. I'm like, Amanda, this is it. I'm quitting, right? But then I decide I'm still going. It's still happening. And I invite you to check in on this, regularly. Like, am I really all in? Because energetically, there's a difference. You can feel it when you're kind of like, oh, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Recently had a conversation with a client, and I could tell. So she's straddling a business right now. So she has one business that she's releasing, and she's creating a new one. And the new one's not being created as fast as she would like. And that's painful. That's really painful. And she had a clear, expectation of what she wanted to create, and it hasn't happened yet. And this is where, the fine art of detachment comes in, where, we we're committed to our goals, but we're detached from the outcome. And I truly believe that if you can get there with your goals, and this might be regularly shifting limiting beliefs around it and thoughts, it does allow things to happen faster. And I get it. Like, I remember days when I, had set certain goals, because I used to look back and think, why didn't that happen? Well, what if there's a better way for it to happen, or an easier way? Like, what if there's a different opportunity? Or what if, as Napoleon Hill talked about in 3 Feet from Gold, what if you're so close to allowing in what you want, but you just can't see it yet? Like, what if? And so make the decision to be all in. Because truly, 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 every limit that's ever been put on you, either has come from someone else and you've believed it and taken it on, or you've taken it on from somewhere else. And, I say this with a lot of just coming from my heart, that in this time of COVID, which has been devastating for so many people, it's also been extraordinary for me to witness the courage that CEOs like all of you, entrepreneurs, have all over the world. Because we didn't get to stop, did we? There was no time to really think about what to do. There was a moment, but it was like either you were going to stay in business or you weren't. And I know a lot of people who didn't. And I know a lot of brave CEOs who kept going and had to figure it out. And that's what we do. And I know this, I know that every single one of us is stronger because of that. Think about what you've survived and thrived through. Think about this platform this platform that has become a verb, right? Like, we now Zoom. Who owns stock in Zoom? Because way to go, congratulations, good move. I wish I would have thought of that like a little before, but I mean, there was a time, you remember think back to 2019, if you can go back that far. Remember when we weren't quite sure how to use Zoom? I remember getting on Zoom and having to do a breakout room and almost having a nervous breakdown, right? It was like, how do you do this? And now we all get on here like we're flying an airplane and it's just so easy and we know what we're doing. Think how much has shifted and changed. And I believe that through great challenges comes absolute opportunity. I know during the Great Recession, I was living in California at the time, and there were all these statistics about how many millionaires were being made in that time. How many millionaires were made during the Great Recession? And I believe someday we'll look back at the statistic that those of us survived and thrived. More millionaires than ever are probably being made right now. So check on your limits. Ladies, only 3% of women business owners make it over the 7-figure mark. Unacceptable to me. I don't think that's acceptable at all. And a big part of it is because of the limits that we put on ourselves. And so I invite you to let go of that limit, whatever it might be. Strategy number 4, Carmen, hopefully you're tracking with me, I'm remembering this, is to develop a consistent lead generation system. Okay. So many things I want to say about this. I'm in a lot of coaching groups, and I run a lot of coaching groups in my company. So I'm around a lot of CEOs, 6, 7, 8-figure CEOs. And I'm constantly in the conversation of lead generation and listening and like what's working, what's not working, because like I have a client who really relies on Facebook, and the day Facebook went down was pretty frightening for her. Right. And so I feel like we're in a time when we kind of have to be ready for just about anything. And at a minimum, this is what I want you to think about. At a minimum, it's important to have at least 3. This is what we work with our clients on. Have at least 3 powerful ways that you generate leads. 3. Now, the word that I find that most of us miss is consistently find leads or allow leads in. So we might be doing one thing in business consistently, but not 2 other things. So figuring out 3 ways that you can market consistently is key. And I want to share this. I'm going to be I'm vulnerable. Like, you guys, if you know me, like if we go hang out at a restaurant, this is who you get. So I'm pretty transparent. And that's one of the reasons our clients like working with us, I think, because we share all the things. I used to have this limiting belief that I didn't know anything about marketing. I was a sales coach. I was a sales expert. I was a sales trainer. I knew traditional selling really well, but I didn't feel like I knew anything about marketing until later. And now when I look back and there's all these, I interview marketing experts all the time because I'm always like, what are you doing? Like, what could you do for my business? And I'm starting to realize that that what we do in my company actually works really well. I know, in other words, I know more about marketing than I thought I did. And what the kind of marketing, I might not be an expert in online marketing. Like I might not be able to throw up a beautiful Facebook ad or Google ad and get you a bunch of leads. Like that's not my forte. But I can figure out the most creative ways to market to grow my business. And I continue to do that. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to hire some amazing lead generation companies. Of course I want to do that. But I grew my company through a few things, and I'll share them with you because I think we can easily underestimate the power of what I call old school marketing. Number one, networking. That's why you're all here. This is what I built my company on in the beginning. If there was a place for me to network, I was there. I showed up at everything. Was it always useful? No. Did I meet a lot of people? Yes. I built my company in Southern California, and I was part of every local chamber, every city that I was in. I was part of that. I was part of NABO, National Association of Women Business Owners. I was part of many like referral groups, passing referrals back and forth. And here's what worked, because I think you could be part of a lot of networking groups and not get results. What worked was being visible. So if you're in networking groups and you're like, I'm not getting anything out of them, I would ask you if you're visible and connected. Networking works when you're in a leadership position, when you take a seat at the table. Look at Roger. Look at how many people he's in front of all the time. Smart dude, right? Like he's leading, he's donating his time, but he knows where to be. He knows to sit at the table. And so start to think about, like, if you're going to be in networking, even if it's all virtual networking today, there are still boards to sit on. In my opinion, that's where a lot of magic happens. Networking happens at the back of the room. It happens in taking a seat at the board. It happens at those spots. It also happens if you're a member, but I just don't think it happens as fast. So side note, if you're going to network, figure out how to lead and be visible. The other thing I did is this. I started speaking on stages, but in the beginning, I spoke everywhere. Anywhere anyone would take me, I was there. I spoke sometimes 3 to 4 times a week in person, schlepping all my stuff around. And I loved it and I hated it. And here's what I'll share with you about this. Years ago, I was at a chamber event and I was talking about my book, Selling with Intention. And one of the leaders came over and they said, hey, would you do a workshop on this? And I felt so sick to my stomach, because even though I was a communication and a psych major, I had a deep fear of public speaking. And I'm sharing with you this because I think it's really important, because I don't want you to get stuck if you don't like to be visible, or if you don't like to speak on stages. I can tell you I hated every second of it. I would have legit panic attacks on stage. And I'm not just saying that. Like I used to have like chronic panic attacks. And I have stood on stages in front of thousands of people and had a panic attack on stage and no one knew. And so I learned how to manage it and I learned how to work around it. Today, I don't have that anymore because I've done so much healing, so much work, like everything I could do to overcome that. Doesn't mean I don't get nervous sometimes. I still do. Like I got to speak at a sales conference a couple of weeks ago. It had been canceled like 3 times. And all of a sudden I'm standing in front of 1,000 people and I'm like, oh, I haven't done this in a while. I kind of forgot, right? Some nerves came up. I'm sharing this because there are ways for you to be more visible right now in your marketing that don't cost you a lot of money, but might be out of your comfort zone. And I just want to encourage you to do it anyway. If I can do it, like if I can have full on panic attacks in front of thousands of people and keep going and go back, you can totally do this. You can be more visible, because today requires visibility. It requires being visible on social media. It requires speaking, maybe Facebook Live, maybe Instagram Lives, like whatever you're doing. I invite you to be more visible. It doesn't cost you, for most of us, it doesn't cost us anything, right? To use our voices and to find opportunities to speak. So in the beginning, it was networking for me and it was speaking. Those were my 2 key ways that I started to grow the business. And then eventually we added things, I used email marketing. And this is so interesting to me. I have consistently sent a newsletter. Back in the day, we called them newsletters, not e-zines. We called them newsletters for over 15 years. And during the pandemic, I had someone reach out to me and she said, I've been on your email list for 15 years. At a minimum, I've sent at least one email a month, because in the beginning, you only sent once a month, like back in the day during newsletter time. Now we send like 3 times a week, right? It's crazy. We have segmented lists. It's very fancy. But I also did email marketing because I just wanted to stay in touch with people. So think about it, like, what are the 3 key ways? And I just want you to write that down. What are the 3 key ways that you can generate leads? And maybe it's referrals as well. We had very creative ways, and we still do that. We've asked for referrals, and that's another way to grow your business.
Ursula, are you open to a question?
Yes, absolutely.
This is from Miguel in Florida. After you help people define their goal and create their strategy, what would you say is the amount of time, percentage-wise, you spend helping them develop their mindset?
Oh my God, that's such a good question. So hard to say. Here's what I can say. I've had clients come back for over 15 years, still working on mindset, who've grown multi-million-dollar companies. Because just when they think they've gotten rid of something, like something else pops up or something else happens. So it really depends. It depends. And we've had other clients who've come in for a year and, gotten what they've needed and moved on to other coaches or mentors or whatever. So it's very individualized. I would say though, over the course of a year, which is the minimum we work with clients in our CEO groups, we can see tremendous shifts in their mindset. And a lot of what we work on. So if 1 month is building their business plan, their strategy, I would say it's, the next 11 months are on their mindset to keep going and to keep growing.
Thank you. No further questions.
Awesome. All right. I know we're getting close on time here. Or we're almost out. Strategy number 5 is to create intentional and confident sales conversations that close. This is where I started, was in the world of sales training. It's why I wrote the book, Selling with Intention, Selling with Synchronicity, because once you bring those leads in, can you convert them? And there's so much shame around selling and not knowing how to sell. But here's the truth, let's bust the myths about selling. We don't learn how to sell anywhere. You don't learn how to sell in primary school, elementary school, middle school, high school, college. You can get, from what I've heard, an MBA at Harvard and not have a class in just selling. Isn't that interesting? Marketing, for sure, or marketing and kind of selling, but not selling. And so this is, one of the things that I love to dismantle is any myths you have about selling or any shame around, I'm supposed to know how to sell. No, you're not. How would you know? Where would you have learned? And so to me, this is always something that we can be developing, is our ability to sell at the highest and best level. To me, selling is all about serving. In fact, I believe the Latin root of the word sell is to serve. And when you come from that place of, here's what I have, if it can solve your problem or meet your need, I'd love to help you on your journey. And if it can't, I'd love to refer you to somebody else. If we all just started shifting to saying that, the world would be such a different place. And yet I get it. We have a lot of limiting beliefs. We have fears around selling. What are people going to think of us? And I invite you to remove you from the equation. What if we get you out of the way? If you had no fear, who would you call? If you had no fear, how would you market? If you had no fear, what would be different for you? You'd be able to serve and make an incredible impact on the world. Statistically, only 2% of sales close on the first call, 10% on the fourth call, 81% of sales close on or after the 5th follow-up. Most of us believe we'd be considered pushy to follow up that many times. 10% of us make 5 or more calls. That's your top 10%. Selling is a skill, and one of the ways though that you can make a quick shift is to come from that place of service and literally to say, if I can solve your problem or meet your need, let's have a conversation and we'll talk about it. If we can, great. If we can't, I'll refer you to somebody else. And then when you sit down with someone, as we share with all of our clients, you could literally, and think about this, you could literally ask 2 to 5 open-ended questions about 2 things: what they want and the pain of not achieving or getting what they want, or what it's going to cost them not to get it. And if you turn those into 2 open-ended questions, and maybe a few more, and you let someone talk and share, and you just opened up that conversation for 30 minutes to an hour, most people would sell themselves. The myth is that as salespeople, we have to talk and talk and talk. And really all we need to do is ask a few key open-ended questions about what they want and what it's going to cost them to not get it. And they'll sell themselves. And at the end, you can say, here are my solutions. Here are 3 ways that I can help you. Here are 2 ways that I can help you. Which one of these is going to work best for you? And you just guide them through that sales process. And then you serve them. And you can make it that simple. And the next time you're on a Zoom call with a prospective client, it's just fun to say that, right? That's the world we're in right now. I want you to imagine that you're glued, like super glued to the chair until you get a clear yes. Yes, I'm in. I want to buy your product or service. A clear no, it's not a fit. We figured it out. Now we know. I want to refer you to somebody else. Or number 3, and this is really big, and I would say trillions of dollars are lost on this 3rd piece. You want to get a next step on the calendar. This is transformational for a lot of our clients. You want to get that next step on the calendar so you can have the next part of the conversation. And it's also kind of a test close. It's like, if we, maybe they need to talk to a business partner. Maybe there's something else they need to figure out. How long is that going to take? 1 day. Great. All right, Shelly, can you meet tomorrow afternoon at 4 or 5? Which works best for you? Get that next step on the calendar and you won't be chasing sales anymore like tumbleweeds through the desert. All right, as we wrap up, I have a gift for you, Roger. Is it okay to wrap up or do you have another question for me?
No further questions.
Okay, may I tell them about my free gift?
Absolutely, it's Santa Claus time. Take it away.
Awesome. All right, well, first of all, thank you all for your time, attention, and energy. I can feel it. I appreciate it as a speaker. As Roger said, it's so good to see faces and be connected. We offer a couple things. We have a 2X intensive course, which is not what I'm talking about tonight, but I will tell you, if you do feel the call, there's a way for you to talk to me about it. And the 2X intensive course helps our clients double or triple their sales while shaving 10 or more hours off their work week. So that's really everything we do is about taking that quantum leap in revenue to get to that next level. This is one of our clients, and she said in the first 11 minutes, it paid for her training, and we love to hear that. So first, though, here's the free gift. This really sets you up for any other things that you might do with us, or this might just be enough for you. So we have something that we developed called the Quantum Revenue Masterclass with me. And I know Kim, God bless you, Kim. Kim is helping. She's going to be adding this to the chat again. So thank you. There's a link, and we made it super simple. You just go to my website, ursulainc.co, and on the homepage, it's like you can't miss it. You see this picture of me, and you put in your information, and you get registered for the Quantum Revenue Masterclass. It was over the course of 3 days, but it's only 3 hours total, 1 hour each day. The first day, we talk about your quantum revenue container, what we talked about today, but we go deeper and wider to figure out what that looks like for you. On day 2, we dig into, which we touched on today, how to align your prices and packages with your quantum revenue container, how you make it match. And the 3rd day, which we didn't talk at all about tonight, is how to collapse time and get there even faster and what that looks like. And that's through team, time, systems, some of the things that we touched on this evening. And if you're like, Ursula's pretty cool, like I'd like to hang out with her more, I'm wondering about, 2X intensive or what it would be like to work with her. One of the things we do, I do a handful every month of what we call upper limit block coaching sessions to really help you blast through wherever you're getting stuck and getting to the next level. They're 30 minutes. They're with me. Sometimes they're me and another coach, depending on her schedule, but it's always me first. And, we can talk about anything that you want to work on in your business. And then we do talk a little bit about other programs or opportunities that we have that might be a fit for you. But again, it comes from the place of, if I can serve you, I would love to. I would love to help you get there. If not, perhaps I can refer you to someone else. And Kim's also going to share that link. Thank you, Kim. And it's very simple, ursulainc.co, not com.co/apply. And that, Roger, well, wait, I have my closing quote. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, you must do that thing you think you cannot do. So I invite you to take that next step in your business and make 2022 your best year yet. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Entrepreneurs International Network. I feel very blessed to be here tonight.
Ursula, on behalf of my 80,600 odd members, I thank you hugely for sharing this, what could have been a very complicated topic, but the way you shared it with clarity, with precision, with brevity, and with high energy was just amazing. You rocked the stage.
I rocked the Zoom stage. Thank you, Roger. It was so much fun.
Roger,
Awesome.
there was my question which was not answered.
Okay, Ashok's question was, when you get somebody tells you, let me think about it, how do you respond?
Ooh, that's a good one. Oh yeah, let's talk about objections. I love to answer objections with questions. I love to get really curious. Now, as humans, we feel like we want to run in the other direction. We think that's a no. We think an objection is a no. In fact, someone was telling me something today over email. And I kind of pushed back. I threw an objection and he did a great job. He answered it with some questions, right? Because I didn't say no. Okay. I want to think about it is not a no. And so I would ask in the moment, I would say, tell me more about that. Like what specifically do you want to think about? Ask an open-ended question back and let them talk to you. What I find most of the time is people are trying to process. If they're asking you questions, they're interested, but they got stuck somewhere. There's something they're not clear about, or they have a certain vision for how they want it, but they're not sure if that's a fit. There's more that's there. And they might come back with another objection. Ask it, just get curious and be willing to stay in the conversation, even if it feels uncomfortable. Most of the time it's not uncomfortable for them. They're literally like just processing. I'm a processor. I will sit there and I'll be like, I'll have this really mean look on my face and people get all freaked out. I'm just thinking. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. It's a good one.
Okay, I'm going to shut her down right now, and then we'll move on with the rest of our agenda. Thank you again, Ursula.
My pleasure.